Hey there guys, in this video we are going to take a look at our 6th lesson in Unit 4 on simplifying polynomial expressions. This unit is this part of the unit, this lesson is going to be kind of like a sum all the things together type lesson, and just practicing simplifying all polynomial expressions. So looking at the review, whenever you're looking at simplifying polynomial expressions, we want to follow our order of operations. So that's PEMDAS. So we want to simplify everything that we can inside parentheses first, and then look at and worry about any exponents that we can simplify, then multiply or divide left to right, and then add and subtract left to right. And then make sure that we take a look at all of our like terms and see if there are, or take a look at all of our terms and check and see if there are any like terms for us that needs to be combined together. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these practice ones that they'll have you do. All right, so taking a look at this first one, thinking of that order of operations, we want to simplify everything inside the parentheses first, looking at that a plus 2. We can't simplify that any more than the way it's already written. A and 2 are not like terms, so they can't be added together. So next we're looking for exponents. Specifically in this steps, we're looking for exponents like right there, like if there was a squared there, we would want to make sure we simplified that first. So we looked at our parentheses. We decided there's not any exponents that need simplifying. So next we're looking at, parentheses, done, exponents. Now we're looking at multiplying or dividing left to right. So if I'm looking right here, I have the set of parentheses with that -4 out there. And the operation that parenthesis is telling you to do is to multiply. And that's why I haven't talked about that -4 yet. Like whenever I was looking at the parentheses step, that the operation that the parentheses, it's not grouping there. The operation that it's telling you to do there is to multiply. So that's why I waited until this step to talk to you about it. So we're going to distribute that -4, making sure we multiply it times everything that's inside of that set of parentheses. So I've got -4 times a, which is -4a. And then I'm going to do -4 times a +2, which is a -8. And then we didn't do anything and with that +4, and that +4 is not inside the parentheses, so it's just going to stay a +4 and not change. So then we're looking for, is there anything that we can add or subtract? We're looking for those like terms that we can combine together. So if I'm looking at, this is the only 4a, or the only a term that I have, the only term that has an a with it. So that can't be combined. And then if I look here, here is a term without a variable, and here is a term without a variable. So those are considered like terms. So we do exactly what the operations are telling us to do. So I've got a -8 plus 4 is going to give us a -4. There wasn't a change to that -4a, so it comes down and just stays the same to be a -4a. So that is going to be our answer right there. So if we're looking at typing that in, I'll wait to type one in with you whenever it's got exponents with it. Okay, here's our next type of problem. Kind of the same idea before, except now we get to play a little bit more with our exponent rules. So thinking through our order of operations, thinking about parentheses, thinking about things inside the parentheses. That 6x and the -8, they are not like terms, so they cannot be combined, so it's going to stay 6x minus 8. Next, I'm going to look for exponents that are outside of parentheses that can be simplified. There is not an exponent there, so I don't need to worry about that. Now I'm looking for multiplying or dividing left to right. So if I look, I've got a set of parentheses here that is telling us we need to multiply that x squared times everything inside that set of parentheses. So I'm going to do them one at a time so I don't forget. So I've got one of them. So I've got negative times a positive to give us a negative, and then in front of this x squared is kind of like an understood 1. So I've got 1 times 6 to give us a 6, and then x squared times x. Remember, those are rules for exponents that we worked on. If we multiply those bases, we need to add those exponents, and this x here technically does have an exponent of 1. So this is -6x to the third. And then if I distribute to the second term, Inside that parentheses, I'm going to have a negative times a negative to be a positive. 1 times 8 is going to be an 8, and there isn't an x in there with the 8, so it's just going to stay x squared. And then if I bring down the term that was not inside the parentheses, and so it didn't change, that plus 3, it's going to be plus 3x cubed right here. So now for the next step, we're looking to add or subtract, and we want to make sure we do this left to right. So if I'm checking for like terms, and whenever we're looking for like terms, whenever it comes to variables, they have to have the same exact letters. No, well, it has an x and not a y, or it has a y and not an x, so does it match? No, it has to be the same exact variable with the same exact exponents. So while all three of those are x's, they are not all three like terms. If we're looking for like terms, this is an x to the third and that is an x to the third. So these are considered like terms. Notice that I'm making sure to include the signs that are in front of those terms, if they have them, to make sure that I keep track of what's positive, what's negative, and what needs to be added and what needs to be subtracted. So I do exactly what this is telling me to do. I'm doing a negative 6 plus 3 gives us a negative 3, and then the like term comes with it, x cubed, and we've got that 8x squared that didn't have a like term to go with it, so it's positive, so it stays a plus 8x squared. So let's type that in together to make sure we can use those. So if we're looking, we've got a negative 3x cubed x, and then this little button here does the exponents, cubed, and I'm going to hit over here so that it gets out of the exponents, and then plus 8x squared. Plus 8x. And there we go. Another type of problem that they could give you is they could give you one like this. Just don't let it looking differently worry you. Just follow those rules of order of operations that we have and you'll be okay. So looking at this one, very first thing is we want to look inside the parentheses. So that negative 6y plus 9, can I simplify those? Are those like terms? They are not, so that stays the same. Negative 5, that can't get any more simplified than it already is, so that stays the same. And then negative 6y plus 7, there's not another y term or just a number inside of that parentheses, so that's simplified as far as parentheses go. So next I'm looking for exponents. If I check right here for all of my sets of parentheses, there are no exponents outside those sets of parentheses. So exponents done. We've thought about them. Moving on to the next thing on our list, multiply or divide, looking left to right. I've got a 4 outside of that set of parentheses that needs to be distributed, and I've got a negative 5 outside this set of parentheses that needs to be distributed. I'm going to work them one at a time. So I've got 4 times a negative 6 is going to give us a negative 24y. And then 4 times a positive 9 is going to be a plus 36. And then here I have a negative 5, and I'm going to, since they put that negative there, I'm going to focus on that negative and use it as my sign, because here with this plus and negative, another way that this could be rewritten as just a minus 5, so I'm not going to be worrying about the plus. I'm just going to focus on that negative. So I've got a negative 5 times a negative 6 is going to give us a plus 30y. And then we've got a negative 5 times a positive 7. Negative times a positive is a negative. 5 times 7 is 35. So now that we've gotten the multiplier divide step taken care of, now we need to look for any addition or subtraction that could be happening. So we're looking for addition or subtraction, again, looking left to right. So with this, the focus is going to be on your like terms, is what we're looking for. So here I've got a negative 24y, and I'm going to look and see if there are any other terms that just have a y to it. Not a y squared, not a y to the third, just a y. And notice that whenever I find that like term, I'm going to circle the whole entire thing, including the sign. So, and I'm going to use those signs to tell me what I'm doing with those numbers. So I've got a negative 24 plus a 30 is going to give us a positive 6y. And when we're adding and subtracting like terms, we don't do anything with the variables. They stay the same. And then so to go look for other like terms that we could have, here's a 36, so a number without a variable. Here is another number without a variable, so those two are considered like terms. So a positive 36 minus 35 is going to give us a positive 1. So our answer for that one is going to be 6y plus 1. So that's, compared to what we start with, that's a pretty nice answer. So like I said, don't let these worry you. Just focus on, use those each individual steps. Focus on those steps and use those steps to help you solve. Okay, taking a look at this next problem, we are going to use the same exact steps that we were using before to solve. Now check out the parentheses. If you want to, go ahead, pause the video, work it out on your own, and see if you end up with the right answer by the time I'm done working it out. So if I'm looking at the first step parentheses, there's our parentheses. If I look at all of them, there are no like terms or anything that can be combined there. So parentheses step done. Looking for exponents next. The outside of parentheses are the places that we can have exponents for. We will need to worry about simplifying them. There's not any exponents there, so we're good with that step. So now we're looking for the multiplying, dividing left to right. So if we're looking for that one, here is a term that is a monomial outside of a set of parentheses that can be multiplied inside. And then here's another monomial, or just one term that can be multiplied times everything on the inside there. So I'm just going to do them one step at a time. So first thing, I'm going to distribute that 3x squared to the 2x squared. I'm going to work it piece by piece. We've got a positive times a positive, which will give us a positive. 3 times 2 is 6, so I've got positive 6. And here we've got to make sure that we are using our exponent rules. I've got x squared times x squared. Remember, we add those exponents, so x to the 2 plus 2, so x to the 4th. Looking at that next part, I'm going to have 3x squared times a negative 2. So I've got a positive times a negative, which is going to give us a negative. A 3 times 2 is going to give us a 6. And then here I've got an x squared there. There is not an x squared, so this is going to stay an x squared. So that takes care of those terms. Looking at the next set of parentheses, we've got a negative x squared times everything on the inside of that set of parentheses. So I've got a negative times a positive, which is going to give us a negative. In front of this x squared, it's kind of like we have a 1. So I've got 1 times 5 is 5. X squared times x squared is going to be x to the 4th. And then looking at the last term in there, I've got negative 1x squared times that positive 2. Negative times a positive is a negative. 1 times 2 is 2, x squared. So that takes care of our multiply, divide. Now we need to worry about our add, subtract, again looking left to right. So if I do that, I've got a 6x to the 4th here. And here I have a minus 5x to the 4th there. 6 minus 5 is going to give me a 1, x to the 4th, or just x to the 4th. And then looking at the next term, I've got a negative 6x squared minus 2x. So negative 6 minus 2 more is going to give us a negative 8x squared. Okay, so those are those types again. And again, kind of like with the last one, it looked kind of like a messy problem to start with, but by the time everything got said and done, it wasn't too bad. They won't always end up nice and neat like this, but like I just stick to the steps that we've got for our order of operations, PEMDAS. Make sure you're going through them and thinking about that, and that gives you your checklist of things to watch and keep an eye out for, so it'll help you get those right. If you've got any questions, let me know. Send me an email or pop in during my live office hours. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.